2 more papers found in Trump's storage last year were marked secret. 2 documents that Donald Trump's legal team returned to the Justice Department last year after retrieving them from a private storage unit in Florida as part of an additional search for materials were marked classified at the secret level, according to sources familiar with the matter. The materials included 1 document marked as secret on the cover page, and a second document marked as secret with its classified attachment removed, one of the sources said, which Trump's lawyers told the department was an indication of that document no longer being classified. The 2 documents were found inside sealed boxes that appeared to have been unopened from when they were shipped down to the storage unit in Florida, near Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, from the White House at the end of the Trump administration, the lawyers also told the Justice Department. Since the 2 documents were returned as soon as the lawyers were informed of the discovery, the department is not expected to include them as part of the wider criminal investigation into Trump's retention of national security information and obstruction of justice. The discovery of additional classified marked documents, though, frustrated the department as federal prosecutors under the recently appointed special counsel Jack Smith have adopted an increasingly aggressive posture against Trump at every turn in the investigation. The Justice Department is so desperate, they are now leaking information that actually proves President Trump did everything right, a Trump spokesman said in response. A Justice Department spokesman declined to comment. In October last year, the Justice Department told Trump's legal team that it suspected the former president was still in possession of classified marked documents even after the FBI seized around 100 highly sensitive materials when agents searched his Mar-a-Lago property in Florida on August 8. Trump eventually agreed around Thanksgiving to let one of his lawyers assemble a team with experience handling classified materials to search Trump Tower in New York, Trump Bedminster Golf Club in New Jersey, and Mar-a-Lago. The team also searched through the Florida storage unit that held boxes sent from the White House that were stacked in the bridal suite at Mar-a-Lago before they were relocated to the government-controlled facility, where they found the 2 documents bearing secret classification markings. Federal prosecutors were alarmed at the discovery of the additional classified marked documents, the sources said, and sought a certification from Trump's legal team that those were the very last documents, and that no further sensitive government materials were in Trump's possession. The Justice Department also asked Trump's lawyers for the identities of the contractors who carried out the search with the intention of questioning them about their work, The Guardian previously reported. But the Trump legal team demurred on the request and disputed that the department needed to know their names, the sources said, before later offering to make them available, but only under a protective order because they worried it would leak to the news media. The Justice Department rejected that arrangement and instead filed a motion to compel their identities in a sealed hearing this month before the chief U.S. District Court judge for the District of Columbia, Beryl Howell, who agreed with federal prosecutors and ruled against Trump. That order was issued by Howell on January 5, the sources said. It was not clear whether the department has interviewed or since issued subpoenas for testimony from the people who carried out the search before the grand jury hearing evidence in the Mar-a-Lago documents case. The closed-door proceedings before Howell occurred as the special counsel weighs next steps specifically for the documents case, including whether to either immunize witnesses to force their testimony or threaten charges to pressure them into cooperating with prosecutors. The developments in the criminal investigation examining Trump's mishandling of classified marked documents comes as Mike Pence and Joe Biden have both also been found to have improperly retained sensitive government documents in their residences and private properties. The Justice Department has typically pursued cases of mishandled classified documents criminally when they involve aggravating factors: willful mishandling of classified information, vast quantities of materials to suggest misconduct, disloyalty to the United States, and obstruction. The investigation into Trump touches on at least 2 of those elements. The obstruction applies particularly to Trump because of his reluctance to return classified marked documents, including when he only partially complied with a grand jury subpoena issued in May demanding any classified items. Frozen, Trump's primary challengers balk at jumping into the unknown. By this time 4 years ago, the Democratic presidential campaign was in full swing, with Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg and Kirsten Gillibrand all having opened exploratory committees or announced runs. This go-around, the Republican field is frozen in place. Those preparing to challenge Donald Trump in the GOP's presidential primary are taking their time, privately discussing the prospect of waiting until spring or summer to get in, according to 3 Republican strategists familiar with different candidates' deliberations. Part of it is strategic, an effort to make someone else an early Trump foil. Part of it is fear, wariness around their own ability to raise money to sustain a drawn-out campaign. "It's very, very quiet," said Wayne McDonald, a New Hampshire lawmaker and former Republican Party chair in the first-in-the-nation primary state. It appears increasingly likely to stay that way for far longer than once expected. On Tuesday, one likely candidate, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, told CBS News it may take a handful of months for him to decide whether to run. An advisor to one potential presidential candidate has discussed with members of at least 2 other potential candidates' teams the advantage of multiple candidates announcing around the same time, according to one Republican strategist briefed on those talks. The conversations, which took place earlier this month, were informal, but they suggest a common recognition among Republicans of what the strategist called strength in numbers in a primary involving Trump. The proximate cause of the frozen primary is Trump, the former president and only declared candidate in the race. Finding himself on an empty primary stage, he has still managed to be tripped up by everything from classified document retention to dinners with anti-Semites. The former president is preparing to ramp up his campaigning in the days and weeks ahead, with pronouncements and stops in South Carolina and New Hampshire. But his bumpy start has sapped some of the sense of urgency from the cast of potential also-rans. "When you see Trump in a free fall, why get in the middle of that?" said a Republican strategist who has discussed the early primary calendar with several potential candidates. Or, as another prominent GOP strategist put it, "Trump's best when he's got an opponent, so don't give him one." For Trump's potential opponents, it may be a matter of self-preservation. Though Trump's support softened following a midterm election in which high-profile, Trump-endorsed candidates flocked, there is a recognition among Trump's rivals that the ex-president, with the benefit of an opponent, can be lethal. He is still polling ahead of potential competitors in national surveys, and no Republican has forgotten his humiliation of low-energy Jeb Bush, little Marco Rubio, and Lion Ted Cruz in the 2016 primaries. And so, everyone is waiting for the other to act. As another Republican, who has spoken with multiple prospective candidates and their teams put it, "I think they think a group launch provides them protection from Trump. But waiting to jump in collectively comes at a cost." Republican presidential candidates will soon face pressures of the calendar, with the Iowa caucuses now just about a year away. Once one upper-tier candidate announces, others will be compelled to compete, lest they lose time to recruit staff, fundraisers, online support, and exposure. "I think it's going to be one of those deals of who's going to break first, who's going to be the first announced candidate," said Bob Vander Plaats, the evangelical leader in Iowa who is influential in primary politics in the first-in-the-nation caucus state, and who was a national co-chair of Senator Ted Cruz's campaign in 2016. "Once that person gets in, you'll see the others follow suit." But with the exception of Republicans like former Representative Liz Cheney or former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, who may run primarily as anti-Trump candidates, there is almost no imperative to jump first. Instead, would-be candidates have spent last year preparing for a run without making major investments that come with actual announcements. They've made appearances on behalf of Republican candidates in key states. They have gone on book tours and made the rounds on TV. They aren't barnstorming early nominating states. Nor are potential candidates spending significantly on digital ads to build out email contact lists of would-be voters and donors, the lifeblood of a modern presidential campaign. Over the last month, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is the only candidate to approach spending six figures on digital advertising on Google or Meta, which includes Facebook and Instagram. DeSantis' state campaign has spent $65,000 on advertising on Google platforms since the beginning of the year, and about $62,000 over the last 30 days on Meta, from December 23 through January 21. The ads have all the hallmarks of a candidate building up to a national campaign. Stand with Governor DeSantis against the woke left. One such ad reads, "Add your name." But DeSantis is the exception to the rule. No other candidate has cracked $10,000 on Google since the beginning of the year. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley's Stand for America PAC came the closest at $9,800. Just one hit that mark on Meta over the last 30 days. Over $17,000 from Mike Pompeo's Champion American Values PAC. It's unclear how receptive audiences, on or offline, would be to presidential campaign messages now, anyway. I think you're seeing campaigns respond to the realities of the market, where people aren't eager to start donating to a presidential campaign that's over a year away, said Eric Wilson, a GOP consultant who led Senator Marco Rubio's, Republican Florida, digital team in 2016. Dave Carney, the veteran Republican strategist who advises Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who hasn't ruled out a presidential run, said it's so early in the election cycle that no one's paying attention. If a candidate announces today, he said, what are they going to be asked about? Debt ceiling, Biden's papers? You're not going to be on message. And even if they otherwise could stay on message, they would have Trump to knock them off. As soon as someone pops their head up, Trump will be whacking on them, Carney said. This is time, he said, for a Republican thinking about running to connect with donors, give speeches, study up and build support, all without being out there naked running down the street.